The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Hey, cheers everybody. Welcome to Ganja Gospel. That's Amber Lalana.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing? I'm Amber Lalana.
I totally thought she would get my back.
This is TwizTD RootZ.
I'm TwizTD RootZ. Hi.
Obviously, I was a little off there.
And we do things without, role playing it. And
this is live, no practice.
Yeah. And what's poppin', man? And this is shout out to the network, the Dorkening, still Toking with, still fire, smoking fire.
Something like that, yeah. Hellfire Radio.
Hellfire Radio. I knew it was.
And coffee. Fuck yeah.
All those awesome things.
They're all linked below in the description.
Go check them out, man. Go check them out. This is where we broadcast at. There's a whole bunch of famous people over there and stuff, man, just doing their thing and stuff, man. Go check them out. All kinds of different shows, comic books and movies and tons of horror stuff. And what was I watching? I can't remember what they were having a conversation about the other day. It was a totally different channel. Doing something totally different. I was
There's
like,
a lot of stuff going on there.
Check this shit out.
If you have a mind for a bit of a, nerdy Dorkening kind of things, like all that cool shit.
Bunch of dorks over there, man.
I mean, we actually just talked about this, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Like, we're very glad that the nerds and the dorks have
rose up, got their own.
We got recognition, right? We're always kicked around back in the day, and well, guess what?
Everyone wants to be one now.
We're cool.
Everyone wants to be one now. Y'all wearing floods. Man, I remember how much shit I used to get for floods. Now everyone's wearing floods.
They are, though.
All it's got to do, one black person just got to wear floods, and then it's cool. That's all it's got to happen. And it's what happened. Boom.
That's what happened.
Look what happened. We ain't wearing no fucking skinny jeans. Fuck that shit. What happened?
Man, skinny jeans everywhere.
What happened? Weezy wore skinny jeans. Everyone's cool. Oh, that's cool. Everyone's going to wear skinny jeans now. Fuck yeah, everyone does.
Hell yeah.
Cheers, Looney.
Cheers, everybody in chat in all the places that we are currently live right now. We appreciate you for coming along for the ride. Yeah. And today, the ride is the 100,000 Giants War.
In dig chopping.
We are going to revisit this. We did read this in what we've read in the past in this book, the book of Og, Enoch and the Giants. And we're going to revisit this because this is his favorite, for one. And there is a lot of crazy things going on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Imagine fighting this war behind me. Imagine being in that castle and looking out, and that's what's coming. What are you going to do? What would you do to stop this? And you might say, God would come help me. Do you know that God was in the war? God was over here fighting, bro. Like, these are the angels and fallen angels and shit. Where's that other picture? Now we don't got to flip it. But
I'll flip it later.
These are who they talk about, the fallen, the Rephaim, the seraphim, the cherubim, right? All those different things that a lot of people, we focus on the Rephaim and the Nephilim, right? Those are the fallen angels and their children, which a shit ton of people on this earth still have their bloodline in them, and they don't even realize it, right? They think they're just white people or black people, and you think black people ain't from fallen angels. Well, we're going to reach in the book what color these giants were.
Yes.
And they had sex. They were really, really, really horny people. And where do you think we get it from? Where do you think humans get it from?
We have definitely inherited the horniness of our ancestors, and our ancestors being giants and Anunnaki both.
Yes. Everything we learned from them. Everything you learn from your parent. And guess what? When Adam and Eve was born, the Anunnaki were their parents. Just straight up. Just it was God, the Anunnaki that you call God, that was Anunnaki. And they taught them everything they knew. And they taught their children. And when those Agigi, the fallen angels, as you call them, came down to earth and made these people right here, they taught these giants everything they knew, right? Everything we knew, we taught them. Look, and all throughout history, we have these stories of giants living on sacred islands like that you can go to and get specific armor and made that was like the gods. You know what I'm saying? Like Zeus got his weapons made by one of these giants, right? A cyclops and shit, right? So you got to remember that some were white, some were black, some were tall with red hair, some had 6 fingers, some had double rows of teeth. They were all different.
Yeah, we're going to read about all of that, each one of these. And that's one thing that we're going to do today in our part 1 of this series. This might turn into 3 series, 2 series, 4-part series. We're not sure exactly how long this is going to take because we're just going to be mindful of the time that we spend on it each time. So the first part that we're going to say is the reason for the 100,000 Giant War in the first place is because the moon child was murdered.
Yep.
And I'm going to read that page. It's only 1 page. So this is going to give you a preface of why this war was even started in the first place. And then we're going to go into who these groups of giants were. So in case you're just tuning in now, obviously we rip apart the truth and we find it and we tell it to you and we discuss it and we try to figure it out in layman's terms, what the fuck happened back in the day and where we came from.
That's right.
That is what we're doing here. Welcome. And we appreciate you for being here.
But remember, it's 2022 now, where it's been a mixing pot of world people. So we're literally all one people descending from all this stuff. If you can't accept it, it's a hard, what is it, blue pill? It's a hard red pill. I can't remember what color it is.
The truth pill.
It's the truth pill.
Whatever color that is to you.
It's a hard pill to swallow that you possibly could have who you were calling Lucifer this whole time. You could possibly have that entity, that being from another planet's blood in your body right now. And you're saying, you know, bad on Lucifer, when literally it wasn't like that. It was nothing religious, nothing holy about nothing.
Let's all just remember that religion is man-made.
Anunnaki made first.
Well, they're the ones that they didn't create religion in the way that we created a religion.
Yeah.
No, that's just it. They created it in a much separate fashion than we have created it. So keep that in mind.
Remember Conan? You guys remember the movie Conan and shit when they had the priests and shit? Imagine that. And that's what the Anunnaki passed down. They passed down kingship and priestship. So that way everyone would worship the Anunnaki. Right. That's what they did.
They definitely instilled that worship to them. Not to
family, what up?
God as we know it and perceive it. It was them. These gods, okay, back in the day, but
that we're still here. They divided the earth up.
But as men, we have morphed this religion that was to worship the gods into worshiping, well, one Anunnaki in particular wanted himself to be worshipped above all, and that's what happened, and that's how things transcribed. That's how the religions have been built. Based off of the one that got greedy and wanted it all for himself, and the men that he taught to make sure that that's what we're going to do.
and women. Women were the biggest thing to go in a priesthood. They were the virgins.
Let's not forget the women.
Only the priest could rape them. No one else could have sex with them. They weren't really truly virgins. The priest would rape the shit out of them. But what I find is super, super interesting is when you look at each one of these so-called Anunnaki and their like place in history, as soon as they got their lots, like Enlil got the lot of what, 50 and 30 and on down, right? So even when you look at Inanna, like when you look at her as a god from a human standpoint, she wanted to be the I am, the one and only God. And to her people, she was. When you look at Marduk, that's all he ever wanted to be on this earth. He's banished from Nibiru.
He can't be anywhere he wants or his home is.
He can't be anywhere but here.
Yeah.
He can't literally be anywhere but on Earth still, or Mars, or the moon. There's only 3 places Marduk can be. He's banished from Nibiru. So he can't just go home. Yeah. He's got an earthling wife and a half-breed child, a little demigod, a Jesus, and they had children. You know, there's we can go here in a second. The Rh negative blood type, super interesting. What do we got though about the moon child?
So yeah, the moon child, what I did want to say too, though, is just to preface as well that we're going to start reading about, like I said, the groups of giants that were called in to fight with King Og. Okay, so this is first the moon child and why this war even began. And second is what we're getting into is the groups of giants and specifically their leaders and who their leaders were, what they looked like, what they controlled, and how they were controlled, if you will. Because that's actually how they were controlled. Just remember how I said that.
King Og, the OG.
Not the OG. So the death of the moon child. And it came to pass, let me get my reading voice on here.
Let me go around there.
And it came to pass that on the 7th day, Og spent chained in the temple that the moon child died. The servants, sorceresses, and elder Rephaim were afraid to arouse Og from his miserable chains to tell him that the moon child was dead. For they said, indeed, while the moon child was still alive, we spoke to him, and he would not heed our voice. How can we tell him that the moon child is dead? He may do us all some harm. When Og saw that the servants, the sorceresses, and the elder Rephaim were whispering, Og perceived that the moon child was dead.
See, the sorceresses are what you would call a nun. Literally, that's the worship they passed down. Go ahead.
Therefore, Og said to the gathering crowd from his chains, is the moon child dead? And they all said, she is dead. So Og arose and unbuckled from his chains. He washed and rebraided his hair, anointed his beard, changed his clothes, and
rebraided his hair.
And went to the temple of Baal of the moon and worshipped. Then he went to his own palace, and when he requested, his smaller self-servants set meat before him and ate it. Then his smaller self-servants said to him, what is this that you have done? You have fasted and wept for the moon child while she was alive, but when the moon child died, you arose and ate food? So Og said, while the moon child was alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, who can tell whether Baal of the moon will be gracious to the Rephaim, what the moon child may live? But now that the moon child is dead, why should I fast? Can I bring her back again? When I die, I shall go to the moon child, but she will not return to me. It was on this day that Og sent messengers to giants throughout the great land and beyond to join him in war against Nimrod.
So the great land and beyond.
Because of the death of the moon child and because of their adherence to circumcision, which is disrespectful to the gods. In this way, the 100,000 giant war began.
So to circumcise your penis, the giants, the Rephaim, say is against the gods. That's to go against the gods. Now you got to ask yourself, who the hell were the giants' gods then? If the giants, if Over here, these dudes are all circumcised their penis, and we all know the Jewish people started the whole circumcising the penis stuff, and we know that they call God God, and that's the whole God that's whole running this whole planet, or is it Satan? Because that's what Satan said you would do too. But so that's that. So if we all worship, everyone on this planet worships basically this one main deity God, then what gods were they talking about? The giants talking about that we were going against by circumcising our penises. And that's like, we didn't get to choose that, man. That shit is not right. Because what if the giants were right? What if the giants worshipped a higher God and they were right? And like, we got the mark of the beast right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not cool. I feel real bad about that for a lot of people, man. It's deep. It's a black scar on my heart for real, because it's like, I didn't get to choose that. That's not fair. Like, you get to choose if you're baptized or not. You get to choose all these different
Sometimes,
things.
Actually, there's
babies.
I was gonna say
babies
in the Catholic. I was not, but my grandma was Catholic,
Baptist.
and usually there are religions, including Catholic, that do that at birth.
I have ones where
Yes.
they're drowning babies and shit.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the giants of the 100,000 giant war. This is going into each one of the groups of them and their leaders.
Now pay attention as she reads each one. Hopefully she can elaborate and accentuate and because dude, just wait. Each one of these is like popcorn time, man. Oh my God.
Township popcorn, get that popcorn ready.
You got to keep in your mind of this kind of shit behind you. But yet we were in, I think, the bronze era or the copper era at this time. Bronze or copper era. I forget which age.
This is the telling of the 100,000 giant war as transcribed by both Enoch, the keeper of the bodies before Baal, and Onzal, the slayer, the smaller selves before Baal of the moon. These are the deeds of the giants who fought with King Og against Nimrod.
When they say smaller selves, they're talking about Adam and Eve's descendants and the descendants of Cain and the descendants of the people that were primitive workers.
It's basically all the people that
all the so-called humans.
All the people that have inhabited the earth and been created and born on this earth thus far, because that were of the Anunnaki that came before, that were originally from Earth. These giants were the offspring of those that were on the moon.
And some of the angels themselves, some of the Enki, all them made kids, like Hercules.
Yeah, so that's why the giants, they were of a separate gene data almost, really, because of where they spent so much time, I imagine, on the moon versus Earth, that when they came down and mated, they birthed these giants. Could you imagine a smaller self who back then would be 10 to 15 feet tall, probably, would birth a giant baby from these Igigi, right? Igigis. Yeah. Igigi from the moon.
How they describe it is they would birth a normal child.
And it would just grow.
It would grow huge, super fast. It would grow big, super fast. And then it would be a giant, and they would have to release it and let it go. And they would make males and females. And then those giants, when they say there's giants there was, when you look at China, imagine that many fucking people being giants, and that's their city. And then go to Russia. There's a whole giant Russia there. That's what it was. It wasn't just a couple tall people wandering around. There was entire nations of these fucking giants, dude. Thousands of years, people. One of the Anunnaki years is 3,600 years. So if they say 100 shar, that's one year is 100 shar, or 1 year is a shar for them. So if they say 100 shar, that's 360,000 freaking years. And they'll say that as humans were here on this planet, people. Oh, imagine what a person could do in that amount of time.
King Og sent throughout all the known world for uncircumcised Rephaim to fight Nimrod and his circumcised army. And the word went forth to every outpost of giants, and they came. The six-fingered, the mountain builders, the heavy weapon makers from the cold lands, the dragon siblings from the east, and the 20,000 giants that came with them.
Can we go over where they came from real fast, slower though, the areas?
And the word went forth to every outpost of giants, and they came. The six-fingered
giants. So whenever you hear about six-fingered giants, double rows of teeth, red-haired giants, boom, there's those guys.
The mountain builders.
The mountain builders. The mound builders. We know about those.
The heavy weapon makers from the cold lands.
Those are Nordic giants right there. Those are your big fucking, what are they called, babe? I always want to say Eskimos, but that's your other side. Vikings, but they're the Viking, big fucking giant Vikings, right?
The dragon siblings from the east, and the 20,000 giants that came with them.
The dragon siblings from China riding what? Dinosaurs. Fucking fabulous right there.
All in all, 100,000 giants representing every colony, color, and creed in the known world.
You hear that? Every color, colony, and known creed in the known world came to King Og's call because he was the king of the giants. This dude was as tall as a mountain. He was the biggest one. And
these are all uncircumcised.
All
giants.
The uncircumcised, all the ones that were able to actually do something in this war came to his call against who you call supposedly God. But really it's Marduk that they're going against right here. And who their God is, you hear they keep saying ball of the moon, ball of the earth, temple of Baal, right? They worship fallen angels. And who? Saint Lucifer.
Then King Og anointed his 7 braids and beard with oil. He stood before 100,000 of them, all in the high place of Baal of the earth, and looking over his warriors and kingdom, he screamed with a voice that all Rephaim heard, "For Baal of the earth and for the loss of the moon child, we go to war." And when the moon was full next, war broke out between Og's and Nimrod's kingdoms. Og and his giants fought against the circumcised, and the circumcised and Nimrod fought back. The Rephaim were driven on by the death of the moonchild, and their hatred of circumcision hardened their resolve. These are the Rephaim of significant stature that fought with King Og on the field of battle of the 100,000 giant war. First up, we have Enoch the keeper of the bodies before Baal. Enoch, whose dark ones shrouded over him with unspeakable darkness. Enoch, who spoke the incantation to raise the dead. Enoch, who worshipped Mot in secret. Enoch, the transcriber of the first chapters of this very book.
Yep.
Enoch, who cut himself and shaved the front of his head. Enoch, who stood between Og and Nimrod and was then cut down by the circumcised. Enoch, who wounded Nimrod's genitals a second time. Do you want to say anything about that?
So wait, they opposed? These guys are opposing?
These are King Og's people.
Oh, he wounded Nimrod, yeah. They cut Nimrod's cock a little bit. No. You can keep reading. The dark ones are the best part, though.
Azoth, the temple priest before Baal of the moon.
Even the priest came out.
Azoth with blackened eyes, who rode a great beast into battle. Azoth, the priest, who was the creator of the driver and chaser. Azoth, who weaved the bones of smaller selves into his beard.
Wow.
Azoth, who ate the unnatural creeping things that did not have fins or scales, and the beasts that chew the cud, but did not have cloven hooves.
Wow.
He ate those unnatural things.
Well, I wonder what kind of beast he rode into battle.
I know, right?
Because they were, elephant was new to them. It was cool.
Azoth, whose dark ones moved objects around him. Azoth, whose potions and spells protected the Rephaim on the fields of battle. Azoth's army was 1,000 giants.
And you heard what's his title here?
The temple priest.
Priest.
For Baal of the Moon.
Now, I told you, okay, Earthlings today, in the beginning, your ancestors had priests. We did magic. We knew spirituality. That's what they taught us. It's a whole trick.
The Malcolm, the cannibal. Malcolm the cannibal. Sorry.
Malcolm the cannibal.
Malcolm the cannibal, who had eaten the dead, who were tied to trees where the dark ones gather. Malcolm, the treasurer in the house of Baal of the Moon. Abominable Malcolm, who showed partiality and took the bribes that blind the eyes of the wise and twist the words of the honorable.
So this dude was terrible.
Malcolm, who at times was possessed by dark ones that threw him into the water or the fire, trying to kill him.
Oh my God.
Malcolm, who sang praises to Baal of the Moon as he was surrounded by circumcised Nephilim and run through. Malcolm's army was 1,000 giants.
Yeah, that dude was terrible.
Yeah, he was not a good guy.
I mean, he was just like, imagine him
He was abominable.
being in your town or your town leader.
Eating dead off of trees.
Yeah.
Og, who was Og's,
420.
A.G. Og, who was Og's brother, and who died in the first moments of battle.
Who?
222.
Yeah, 222.
He who died in the first moments of battle was Og,
AG.
King Og's brother.
Ag.
Ag.
King Ag's brother died in the first few minutes of battle.
Ag, who had no connection or any interest in a connection to any spiritual things whatsoever. Ag, who followed not the customs of Og's land.
Huh.
Ag, who spared his firstborn from Baal's fire.
Ah.
Ag, who swung nets for fishing. Ag, who swung nets for fish and swung nets on the field of battle.
Yeah. He was a good guy.
Ag, who was stunned by stones and then pierced by spears and hacked with axes until he died. Ag's army was 5,000 giants.
Wow, they got chopped to pieces because they were pacifists.
Well, if once we read though, because this is what we said before, we're like, oh, he didn't really want to fight. He was pacifist. But we will read when we get into the war that he is one of the first ones that was brought down because he did the most damage.
Yeah.
They seen what he was doing on the field and what he could do with his nets.
Yeah.
That
they were capturing tons of people at once.
Taking way too many other giants down.
Yeah.
And so they took him out first because he was actually a key to bringing down the most giants that there was in that war.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough.
Good eye, babe, on that one.
Yeah.
So in King Og's world, remember this is Tartary over there, where the land of Canaan, right? The land where Cain was banished to, right? Over there in Asia and Russia and shit. That's where they all came from. And well, that's where Og's kingdom was, right? So he's over there, and this in King Og's place, remember, they're eating people. They eat people. They drink blood. They eat hearts. They sacrifice.
Eating smaller cells is no big deal. This is just what they do.
That's
both
food.
Sides, okay? We're talking Nimrod and Og.
Yeah.
That's just what they do.
That's
They
food.
just treat them a little differently on either side.
Yeah, because on King Og's
We're
side,
food.
there is no marrying. There is no wedding. There is no nothing. If you have a daughter or a child, they're going to eat it. If it's a girl, it goes in the priesthood and then becomes in the harem, right? And that's on King Og's side. Now, in a child sacrifice stuff. So like Ag, his brother, didn't participate. None of that shit. He's like,
He's a fisherman.
Into none of that spirituality shit, man.
He
Y'all
saved
keep
his
that shit.
son.
He can't help where he was born, who he was born under, but he had a right to be enlightened and know truth of what was real. So both sides still took part in eating and stuff, but under Nimrod, you were able to get married and shit like that. But under Nimrod specifically, you had to give up your wife first to him, and then he would butt rape her and give her back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he got the way first. They got their way with the girl first, the lady first.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Tarshan, who hunted in the great waters and tamed Leviathan.
Dude.
Tamed Leviathan.
Tamed it. Didn't kill him. Tamed. You're my bitch. You're my pet.
Tarshan, blood servant and warden of the blood pits of Baal of the earth.
Ooh, does that sound like Hades from fucking Greek mythology?
Tarshan, who killed the circumcised Nephilim on the field of battle by crushing skulls with hammers. Tarshan, who plundered Nimrod's stores and took all of his smaller selves and livestock. Tarshan, whose face had been scarred by a mighty beast. Tarshan, who used the Dark Ones to read the minds and hearts of others. Tarshan's army was 500 giants.
Yep, and you heard him. He killed circumcised Nephilim. You might say, wait a minute, why are they circumcised? It's the only way we have to explain what it looks like when you get circumcised. So the gods look like that. So when they say the circumcised Nephilim, they're literally talking about who you call angels. Literally. Those are fallen angels. Well, the giants are fallen angels, the children. They're talking about killing your angels that were with mankind. That's insane.
Geryon, the heavy.
Fat man.
Whose fourth and final battle was the 100,000 giant war.
We need to follow him and find him and see what his other battles were like, dude.
Each war Geryon fought had torn his face so severely that he'd had 3 different faces. Geryon, who was oppressed by his Dark Ones and had been rendered mute.
Wow.
Geryon, who served Mot in the open.
Wow.
Geryon, who was stubborn, rebellious, a glutton, and a drunkard.
Wow.
Geryon, who continued to swing the driver and chaser mightily after his head had been severed in battle. Geryon's army was 500 giants.
Insane. We need to find out what this driver and chaser is.
Yeah.
What does that sound like to you?
That's a question for the masses. Of all the talks and readings we've done, what do you think the driver and chaser could be? The driver and chaser, I think, I don't know. I mean, the way they talk about it on occasion, like the way he say they swung it, you know, who continued to swing the driver and chaser mightily after his head had been. So it's something like, I think of like a mace, you know, like something like a mace, like just, it's like it drives and chases. Like it's just like it's got momentum, you know, and you fucking run. It's chasing you away. Like, I don't know if I'm right. Yeah. But
you can also throw it.
Right.
And,
like,
and it recalls.
Something like a boomerang kind of thing.
No, it's still holding it in your hand. It's not Thor's hammer.
Okay, like a chain link.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they actually depicted this in this battle scene in a God movie about Shiva and shit with the driver and the chaser, and it's so fucking cool because it's just that. It starts off with a big fucking, it's like a club. That's the driver. And then the chaser is the fucking mace that spits out.
Okay, it's like it drives and then it chases. It chases
out and can go wham, hit you, and then it retracts back in, and it's the driver and the chaser. Yeah. And you heard the giants, not on God's side, not on Babylon's side, right? But in these giants of the fallen angels, right? They're the ones making these God's weapons, people. They're the ones. He made the driver and the chaser.
The first one, I think we read, the creator. Somebody was the creator of the driver and the chaser.
Yeah, it was one recent that you just read.
It was somebody here. Azath, the temple priest of Baal of the Moon, who was the creator of the driver and chaser. So
yep. He created that shit. A magical fucking weapon. Crazy.
All right. So that was Geryon the Heavy, a drunkard, a glutton, and openly
that weapon's serious though.
Served Mott. Yeah. And a very ugly with 3 faces, all scarred the fuck up.
Jesus.
Athos, the climber, who climbed the mountains until the air thinned cold as he searched for new lands.
Wow. He's probably the first person that climbed Everest, I bet.
Athos, soothsayer for Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Soothsayer, as in kind of an oracle, if you will.
So I was thinking like some
kind of type of thing. Yeah, somebody who can
the stars.
Yeah, who can kind of connect in that way, type of thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Or even a storyteller type of thing, you know.
Could be.
Athos, who had foretold the circumcision of Nimrod and the 100,000 giant war.
So he prophesied about this. So see, these giants had prophecies of things.
Athos, who was strong and of good courage for a Baal of the stars and celestial bodies, and was the one who Baal of the stars and celestial bodies possessed and never forsook. Athos, whose visage was changed when the dark ones were upon him. Athos, who made armor out of the bones of the Nephilim and great beasts of old.
Wow, you hear that? So he wasn't making armor out of little people. The bones of the Nephilim, the bones of the damn angels.
The bones of the people they're going to fight.
Yeah,
These are the Rephaim against the Nephilim.
The angels, the literally who you call angels. You know what I'm saying? So they made bones out of angels and out of the ancient beasts, dinosaurs, dragons, like, you know, not Leviathan, then you got tamed, but, you know, all that crap. That's cool.
Athos, who had the eyes of certain death. Athos's army was 500 giants. Uval, the gray.
The gay.
Uval the Gray.
Oh, he probably was. He probably wore a feather.
Father of Og's deceased wife, Lestha. Uval was the commander of elephants and great scaled beasts.
Elephants and scaled beasts. So he had elephants and dinosaurs, people. Oh, hell yeah.
Uval, who had fallen from the skies like lightning at the beginning.
Wow.
Uval, who conversed with the bright ones. Uval, whose heart broke when the moon child was lost. Uval, who sacrificed to gods we did not know.
Wow.
Uval, who died in combat after killing many while under the control of the Dark Ones. Uval's army was 5,000 giants.
We got to check out Uval because he sounds like he's an angel.
Well, he is the father of the wife, so he's old. He's quite old if he's a father of one of the giants.
He sounds like he's one of the original fallen angels who worships really Enki and Enlil, which those giants ain't going to worship because they weren't around. They had thousands and thousands of years of fighting, those Agigi did, against Enlil and shit to get a spot here on Earth we call hell. You know what I'm saying? And then they started making a lot of giants and shit. And those giants then got history. But Azazel, Satan, Lucifer, all his people, they made them worship them. They didn't know. They were like, who the fuck are these people?
He even said, Uval, who sacrificed to gods we did not know.
Yeah, sacrifice, see?
Which means that he worships and does...
He's killing things in their name. See, the real creator of all, the frequency God. Why would you destroy? That was never the code. That's not the code of us, right? We're supposed to preserve life, right? That's the code. So anytime you hear sacrifice, that's Anunnaki. Every goddamn time.
Arkrut, the Rephaim, sharpened his fingernails. Arkrut, who connected to a floating beast for battle.
See, I want to know what that could be. Is that like fucking some shit? Like, what's that movie, Avatar? Like, you connect to a floating beast?
It's a floating beast, not a swimming beast. So it's got to be something connected. Connected as in connected through mind or connected through body.
Yeah, like did he
right?
strap
It could
himself
be
to
either
a blimp?
one.
He strapped himself to a blimp. It's floating, not flying, right?
It says floating.
Yeah, floating. Yeah.
But it doesn't say on water.
No, floating in the air.
It doesn't say on water. We immediately think water. I immediately think water float.
Well, they're on
water,
land.
floating water. You float on water.
But they're on land
well,
fighting.
We have the floods are happening. It's raining, and eventually it does rise. That's why I think
Oh.
it could possibly be water floating, but it's a floating beast, which means it floats wherever it may be. So, it may be just it's floating on air. Could it be a type of bird? Could it be a type of ship that's like an airship that just floats? Who knows? Who
Or
knows?
could it be just some kind of big type of a ship? But I would think they would call it a ship.
Arkrut, whose floating beast Arkrut, who connected to a floating beast for battle. Arkrut, who, when connected, became as a lion.
See, he's transforming.
Arkrut, whose floating beast tore at the groins of the circumcised Nephilim. This is something to really imagine here. Arkrut, who wore the skins and faces of the many Nephilim he killed.
Wow. He wore skins and face. He flayed the skin off your angels and literally wore their skins. He was that person for battle. That's fucked up, dude.
Yeah.
To think about. Oh my God.
Arkrut, servant of Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Arkrut, whose arrows were drunk with blood and whose sword longed to devour flesh.
Wow.
Arkrut, whose braided beard grew past his knees. Arkrut's army was 500 giants.
And now remember, when they say these people got swords and shit, we see their swords. Ancient swords that are 20 feet long, 15, 10 feet long swords. Those are their swords that they're talking about in this shit. Some are even bigger, big as damn houses or as big as buildings.
Noth, the black Rephaim from the hot lands of elsewhere.
So there was black giants, okay? Fallen angels or angels came down, had kids with people of earth and made these Rephaim, these giants, right? So not all of them are white. There's black ones from the hot lands. What's that sound like to you? Africa. Black giants from Africa came to this war to fight against Nimrod.
Noth, who like Uval conversed with the bright ones. Noth, who sacrificed to gods we did not know. Noth, who also spoke the incantation to raise the dead. Noth, who had opened his soul to the dark ones completely, and whose eyes were darkened because of it.
Yep, the bright ones are Anunnaki, just like the shining ones.
Noth, who heaped disasters upon the circumcised Nephilim and dashed their skulls upon the stones in the field. Noth, who had the eyes of certain death. Noth's army was 1,000 giants. So the eyes of a certain death is repeated quite a bit in these. And when I think of that, and I think we've discussed this before, when you see movies and shows that, where demons are possessed and you have it's all black. There's no white. It's all black. That's what I picture. It's death. It is black. It is the dark ones have taken him over. He is demon possessed. Boom, black eyes.
Gone. Like that dude's taken over.
So, and there are quite a few of them that have blackened eyes in here. So that's like it's kind of normal.
Yeah, the dark ones
in
were.
this.
Yeah, the dark ones were a thing on this planet when the Anunnaki came here. And
See,
shit,
Eric.
Later, Eric, when the Anunnaki came here, those dark ones were here. They were here on this planet already. That's Earth spirits, right? When all these damn people were being created with souls, it was like, oh, hold up, like wait a minute, we could just take over this shit. Fuck yeah, let's do this. And that's what they start doing. And they loved it. And that's why that's why they say some of these giants would give over their souls completely to the Dark Ones, because the Dark Ones gave them fuck tons of superpowers.
Yugthoth, the black Rephaim from the hotlands of elsewhere.
There's another one.
Yugthoth who was driven by the Dark Ones that visibly rested upon his shoulders.
Just had him sitting there chilling. That's how big this dude was.
Yugthoth, who could call down fire from heaven, from Ball of the Sun.
Wow.
Yugthoth, who could off his sandals. Wait, let me read that right. Yugthoth, who took off his sandals to question Ball of the Sun and was not struck dead.
Ah,
Yugthoth,
connected to the earth. See, it's frequency, baby.
Yugthoth, whose hair was thick and looked as ropes do. So he had dreads.
Yeah, dreads.
Yugthoth, who killed 50 circumcised Nephilim with the skull of a great beast.
Wow.
Before he died.
Wow. Killed 50 angels before he died with a skull of a great beast. What kind though?
Yugthoth, who had the eyes of certain death. Yugthoth's army was 1,000 giants.
Black dude with dreads, huge black giant with dreads and black eyes. It's fucking terrifying. His weapon is like the neck bone and skull of a fucking ancient monster. Oh my god. Terrifying.
Argu, the foot breaker, whose white hair shone under the ball of the sun. So we have a giant with white hair.
And a foot breaker.
Argu, who fought mightily with the driver and chaser and crippled many. Argu, who had to be chained to a stone pillar when under the power of the Dark Ones because of his terrible strength. Argu, who was prophesied. Argu, who prophesied Og's victory in the 100,000 Giant War.
So there's another dude getting prophecies from their gods, right? Their gods, which are not in the Bible. They're getting prophecies of winning this war against Nimrod and Babylon, right? And on the whole army of the world.
Argu, who left nothing undone of all that the Dark Ones commanded of him. Argu's army was 500 giants. Vetus, whose arms swung violently, and who wrapped his fists in chains. Vetus, who fasted and prayed before Ball of the Moon with Og during the death watch of the Moonchild. Vetus, whose Dark Ones would enter his enemy and then return to tell him what the enemy was planning.
Oh, he's a spy.
Vetus, who'd eaten 200 smaller selves in one sitting.
So see, he ate 200 of Adam and Eve's descendants or primitive worker descendants, right? In one sitting. That was their feast. They didn't go and kill boars and hunt and shit. They had people.
Let's not think of the feasts of old when we're thinking of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
No, their hunting is people.
They just grabbed them and fucking picked them up and throw them on the Barbie real fast. It's like shrimp, bro.
We are a bunch of shrimps on the Barbie.
We're just different flavors. That's all it comes down to. The skin color determines the flavor. You know how dark meat is. That shit's juicy and ripe. We're dry. We're dry. You don't want us. Don't eat us.
Yeah. Vetus, who took violent means to follow Ball of the Moon, brutally walking in all his ways. Vetus, who had the eyes of certain death. Vetus's army was 500 giants.
Again, black eyes.
Briareos, the strong giant, who worked in the fields and harvested. So imagine the strength of a giant, and then imagine being called the strong one. He's strong. Briareos, worshiper of Ball of the Earth and a recipient of Ball's blessings. Briareos, who commanded many Dark Ones to enter the circumcised Nephilim's armies and confuse their ways. Briareos, who dug a tunnel into Nimrod's kingdom. Briareos, who built an incredible altar to Baal of the earth, that was a witness between him and the Dark Ones, so that none in Og's kingdom could say, "We have no part in Baal of the earth." Briareos' army was 3,000 giants.
Read the last part one more time real quick with what he built.
He built an incredible altar to Baal of the earth that was a witness between him and the Dark Ones, so that none in Og's kingdom could say, "We have no part in Baal of the earth."
Yeah.
He made it so that the Dark Ones would not be angry.
Yeah, everyone knew. So here's the thing, though. While God's on earth, right?
He was the harvester too.
God,
fields and harvester. He was strong.
Yeah.
In the fields.
God made people, right? Fallen angels come down on God's watch, make these dudes. These dudes are terrible, right? God don't like these guys. God smited them with the flood, right? Right? How come they're having prophecies by their gods? God just slept on the other gods on the earth and let other gods just slip in right under his nose and give the people he hated the most prophecies and blessings. Baal the earth gave him blessings. Now, who was Baal the earth at the time? We could argue about it. It could be Marduk. It definitely wasn't Enki or Enlil. It could be Enki. It could be Thoth. Thoth could be the one behind a lot of these, because Thoth made a fuck ton of giants, people. So when you're hearing that these giants that come from all these places, don't get it twisted that half these motherfuckers are Thoth's people, bro. Half these people are people descended from Thoth's bloodline and shit.
Kotos, the black Rephaim from the hotlands of elsewhere.
A third black guy.
Kotos, whose strikes pulverized boulders and who pounded his fist inside and through his enemies. Kotos' whisper of gods we did not know. I'm sorry, not whisper. Worshipper. Having a hard time here.
Worshipper. It's the shushu.
Kotos, who had torn 20 circumcised Nephilim apart with his bare hands. Kotos, a violent giant whose fury none could reason with. Kotos, who put a trumpet in the hand of every giant in his army.
Wow.
Kotos, who said, "When I blow the beast's horn, then you blow the trumpets on every side of the camp. Then scream, 'The battle belongs to Og!' In doing so, the Nephilim were confused by the horn blasts and yelling, and the Nephilim greatly feared Kotos and his army. Kotos, who had the eyes of certain death. Kotos' army was 2,000 giants.
So there's 2 or 3 so far. 3 big black motherfucking giants from the hotlands. Wherever they are talking about. We know where the dark people come from. So it's kind of crazy that a lot of black people and dark people, they'll talk about there were no black giants. There was fuck tons of them. They were the most vicious, they said. They were the
so
most vicious, and all of them worship the old Anunnaki gods, the original. Because these are the 3rd generation. The flood came and shit. And then all the other people came up later, God and everybody else, Noah and came and blah, 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 blah. Moses, Jesus. Go ahead, baby.
Gyges of curved limbs. Gyges, who had been buried from the neck down to straighten his curved limbs at childhood.
So he was born again.
Gyges, builder of the high places and secret worshiper of Mot.
Wow, builder of the high places.
Gyges, who lived with the lepers. Gyges, who was protected by the dark ones that circled him in black flames.
So he lived with the white motherfuckers.
And was encircled by black flames.
Yeah.
Gyges, who conjured and sent a powerful dark one of ill will into the Nephilim camp. Gygas, who had the eyes of certain death. Gygas, who was captured and straightened till he died by the circumcised Nephilim. So he was very bent over. He was probably like crippled, kind of. I'm imagining like what the crooked spine syndrome that we have nowadays. I'm kind of imagining that a little bit.
Straight until he died. So in those days, they put people on what they call as a rack.
Right.
And they stretched them.
Yeah.
Straightened them until he died. Now it said crooked limbs. They tried to bury him to straighten his limbs. They never said it was a success, like she said.
He was called.
He could have been like, oh.
Gygas of curved limbs. If they didn't straighten in childhood, I'm sure he kept that name through his life for a reason.
Now, remember in the movie 300?
Yeah.
Remember that little fucked up little thing?
Yeah.
Imagine.
Could be somebody like him.
Stretching that dude. That would literally break that dude to pieces, trying to straighten all those bones out to a normal look. Mm-hmm. Like that would kill him. That's cool, though. Picture of envisioning that as being that giant.
Yeah.
And it's a giant, though.
And he's a giant.
It could be bigger as your bigger.
He's not like this
house.
little weird guy. He's a giant.
It could be bigger than your house.
Talo, or Talo. I'm going to say Talo. The simple giant.
He's simple.
Talo, who'd had his head wounded as a child.
He's a hippie. That's what he is. Oh, simple.
No,
means
simple as in not a lot of thought going on.
He's dumb.
He'd had his head wounded as a child. Talo, whose forehead was as a wall, but whose skull was sunken.
So, head injury. Yeah. So you ever seen those guys?
Sunken in head.
Gone.
Talo, who opened himself completely to the dark ones and was rarely in control of himself.
Probably had no brain, half a brain.
That's why he took
Probably
take me over.
Probably half a brain.
He was easy to take over.
Yeah.
Talo, who spoke to all with the mind and voice of a dark one, and served Ball of the Earth like he was controlled.
He was totally.
Talo, who allowed no razor come to his head or face. Talo's army was 425 giants.
So he was one of those paranoid motherfuckers. You ever see someone like that? You come by him with, like, say, you try to light something for him, and they're like, ah!
Like Clegane and Fire. And
yeah.
I always go to Game of Thrones. We all know Game of Thrones. So.
Yep. This dude freaks out if you bring razor anywhere near his fucking head. That's fucking interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Raka, the empty head. Raka, whose dark ones completely controlled him. Raka, who was unpredictable with axe, driver and chaser, and stones.
Rockaware.
Raka, who was killed on the field of battle by Nimrod's guard. Raka, whose eyes whitened as the eyes of the blind and spoke with the voice of the dark one.
Wow.
Now that's different. Raka, whose dark ones changed his form, so he became a different giant. Also, that's a different thing too. They would take control of the giants, but they would still be a giant.
This motherfucker can shapeshift right there. There's writings of shapeshifting right there in these ancient texts.
Raka, who had the eyes of certain death, but they were white.
Well, they were black.
They were being white
they
when
would
possessed,
turn
I think.
white.
Yeah.
When this thing would talk to them.
Yeah. Raka's army was 425 giants.
420.
Amok. Ran amok. Amok, who commanded the dark ones. He commanded the dark
ones.
He was
in charge of them.
Amok, who could say, go and wound that giant.
Marijuana King.
And then the dark ones would go and wound him.
You're my bitch.
Amok, who commanded the dark ones from the high places as Og stretched his arms over the field of battle.
Who else do we know stretched their arms over a field of battle, everybody? Moses.
Amok, who said, Ball of the Earth has great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices. Behold, to open yourself up to the dark ones is greater than sacrifice. To be connected to a dark one is better than the fat of lambs. For your witchcraft, iniquity, and idolatry, please your God, Ball of the Earth. Amok's army was 1,000 giants.
So there you hear it. That ball of the earth loves this witchcraft, loves idolatry, loves the whole sexual thing, loves all the dirty, nasty deeds, right? And the more you do, not sinning, just being witchy, just being sex, do lots of sex.
Just owning your...
Yeah. More jewelry, more necklaces. I want to see more fucking statues and shit. Like, they love that shit. So we got to figure out which one of those Anunnaki did that. Hey, which one was into that shit?
Virok, the perfect, whose visage was beautiful and who received favor throughout the kingdom because of his pleasant appearance.
Now imagine the
cute one.
The Rose guy from Game of Thrones.
Oh, yes.
That night with the Rose.
Yes.
He later got the shaft.
Lord. It's on the tip of my tongue. The gay brother.
Yeah.
Virok, servant of Baal of the Sun. Virok, who raided Nimrod's castle and rushed on the spoil and took sheep, oxen, and cattle and slaughtered them on the ground, and with his army ate them in stores, blood, bones, and all. So
he robbed his castle.
Raided that shit.
While they're out there in this war and no one's in the castle, he ran in there and raided this shit real quick and ate all the shit, stole all his gold, probably killed all the people and ate them.
Virok, who could call rocks and boulders to fall from the sky from Baal of the Sun.
It's over here.
What are you looking for?
The other background.
Oh, no, you're in the right place, honey. Go back to comments.
What?
You were in the right place down there. Virtual background. Scroll.
Oh. Yeah, I want this one. Hell yeah. This is what we're talking about right here. So it's Babylon right there. Babylon after the fall of the tower.
Virok, who could call rocks and boulders to fall from the sky from Baal of the Sun. Virok, whose flowing flaxen hair became the easy target of the Nephilim, and he was severed in half after many wounds by a greater circumcised Nephilim.
Wow. So at this time, when they say Baal of the Sun, I can only think of Ra, right? Amun-Ra. He was the sun god, right? It wasn't Enlil, it wasn't Enki, it wasn't Marduk, it was Ningizida, who was Thoth. So this one is connected to Thoth by prayer, right? Frequency. And he's like, yo, throw me some asteroids real quick, bro. And the dude's like, watcha, 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 watcha. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Belter loader shit right there, man.
Virok, who had the eyes of certain death, Virok's army was 500 giants.
Wow.
Idigan, the possessed.
Ooh.
Idigan, whose dark ones would seize him and change his shape. Another shapeshifter. Idigan, who spoke unintelligibly because of the dark ones in him. Idigan, whose 7 braids had never been trimmed or cut.
So, man, they were like dragging and shit.
Idigan, servant of Mot. Idigan, who, when the battle became intense and he was severely wounded by the archers, asked his army to run him through with his sword, screaming, lest these circumcised giants come to torture and abuse me. Idigan's army was 2,000 giants.
Yeah. The giants did build the tower. You know, the giants that's who was the king. See, when you see this guy back here, that huge guy, remember when they're talking about these kings, king of Babylon, king of Syria, king of Jerusalem, king of fucking Africa, wherever the fuck you see a king, it was one of these assholes. One of these giant motherfuckers. Prove me wrong. I'm going to show you I'm show you how it is that true. That's truth. We were the smaller selves. We were servants, slaves. Just no one wants to admit that shit. Later, we killed all these bastards here. We killed them all. And then we became the greedy ass little bitches that we are today.
Merihim, who had an
Is that
extra arm growing from his chest
Damn.
that was useless.
3 arms, that one was dumb.
Merihim, who practiced the dark witchcraft of Ball of the Earth that could change the species of any living beast.
Oh, so that's dark magic, and he had shape-shifting powers too, and that's shaman stuff.
Merihim, who foretold the coming of the great waters.
Oh.
Merihim, of whom the Dark Ones moved around and through, so much so that he appeared as within a plague of locusts.
Wow. So here's a giant, though, that also prophesies that this flood was coming.
Merihim, who cut his hair at the end of every 5 years because it was heavy and a burden upon him.
Fuck yeah. That would be me.
Merihim, who had the eyes of certain death. Merihim's army was 2,000 giants.
Maybe he had those kill you eyes, like the fucking.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll fucking kill your ass, motherfucker. Those eyes, those certain death eyes, you know you're going to die.
Ubscust was Ubscust,
Be Chuck.
whose skin and limbs were white as snow.
White as snow,
because
baby.
he was a leper.
He was a leper. Did you hear that? Can you read that again, please?
Ubscust, whose skin and limbs were white as snow because he was a leper.
Now do you understand what to be a leper means?
Ubscust, whose hair had turned white on his sores, and the sores were deeper in the skin of him.
Go.
Ubscust, who worshipped Mot in secret. Ubscust, who with his fellow lepers beat the drums at the times of infant sacrifices to
shit.
Ball of the Earth.
Damn.
Ubscust, who lived among the lepers near the trees where the dead are tied and the dark ones gather. Ubscust, who had the eyes of certain death. Ubscust's army was 1,000 leprous and diseased giants.
1,000 leprous and diseased albino offspring of the Nephilim, black Nephilim, right? Had to have been a black Nephilim to make these or other black giants. And when the Age of Enlightenment happened in their day, I told you the world creates albinos. It just happens. So that's the lepers. Interesting that the whole fucking army was lepers.
Skibar, the uninformed and stupid.
Oh.
Skibar.
How'd he make it? How'd he make it there?
I don't know. I guess he was led. Skibar, who spoke lies of the dark ones and the bright ones. Skibar, who spent inordinate amounts of time grooming his beard.
Oh, I used to do that too. It all fell out.
Skibar, who was beaten almost to death in the flatlands by his own Rephaim army.
Oh, Jesus.
Skibar, who was spared from betrayal and death at the hands of his army by Enoch, the keeper of the bodies before Baal. Skibar, the uninformed and stupid, who died delicately after one slap across the face from a circumcised Nephilim.
Wow.
Skibar, the confused, who lied with all of his breath.
So I know real quick. His army beat him so bad, right, that when he healed from it, but when he went into this war, all it took was one slap. And that was all that he had. His body had nothing left, and it killed his ass. No more fight left in the body, bro. His body was done. Imagine that, that electric connection. Gone.
For there were many that hated him, and they hated him with cruel hatred. Skibar, whose corpse was circumcised on the field of battle by the Nephilim.
Wow.
That's a special kind of hatred. Skibar's army, who wanted to kill him, was 50 giants.
Yeah.
Now,
oh my God.
So far, the most lesser of the armies have been 425 giants. He had 50, and they all hated his ass.
They all wanted to kill him.
No wonder why he didn't have a big army.
They almost killed him coming to this war. He healed though, and then one slap, and then the Nephilim, or your angels, right? They keep saying, they keep calling that. They grabbed his penis and circumcised his ass to disgrace him.
Oriax, who had stared at the sun for revelation from Baal until he was blinded.
That's me. That's me.
Oriax with long black hair, who Baal of the sun spoke directly to. Blind Oriax, who was carried into battle and commanded his army from his chase. Oriax, who did call down fire from Baal of the sun upon the circumcised Nephilim on the field of battle.
Wow.
Oriax, who called upon the Baal of the sun as his rock, fortress, and deliverer. Oriax, who spoke of Baal of the sun as his horn, stronghold, and refuge, who trains him to deliver violence. Oriax, who worshipped both Baal of the sun and Baal of the moon, and opened himself to conflicted dark ones. Oriax, who had the eyes of certain death. Oriax's army was 500 giants.
It's very interesting how, if God rained down brimstone and fire, how the fuck are these things doing it? Mm-hmm. Are they God?
Oya, the black Rephaim.
Oya. Isn't that like a Spanish thing?
Well, yeah.
It's
like, Oye, come here. Yo,
Oye.
you. Oye.
So that's his name. You.
Oya, the black Rephaim.
Oya.
The black Rephaim from the hot lands of elsewhere.
There's a fourth one.
Oya, the bread maker and worshiper of gods we did not know.
Again, Anunnaki.
Oya, whose dark ones could transport his spirit into another living creature.
Ooh.
Oya, who, see, this reminds me of Bran. And you know how they were able to, well, I forget what they were called in the Game of Thrones, but the people who could see through the eyes of birds and wolves.
Yeah,
and,
third eye ravens.
Well, he was the third eye raven. That's not what they were called.
Oh, the first part when he was able to control.
When they're able to go in to the birds, the animals. Exactly, it's the same. It's a term that they called it.
Okay,
but that's what I think of.
Yeah.
When he's able to do that or whatever, that's what I think of. Oya, who attacked the Nephilim on the field of battle with his transportation. Oya, who raided the circumcised Nephilim temples and ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the blood of their drink offerings. Oya, who was as dangerous and ferocious as he was strong. Oya the fast, who had no use of weapons in the battlefield and used his hands to twist, thwart, and break the circumcised Nephilim. Oya, whose vengeance on the Nephilim was as grapes of gall on bitter clusters, served with wine that was a cruel poison. Oya, who had the eyes of certain death. His army was 500 giants. Farmz, the hairy blood drinker.
Ooh.
Farmz, who wounded his enemies and saved their blood in clay pots. Farmz, worshipper of Baal of the earth. Farmz, who swung a dead circumcised Nephilim as a club on the field of battle.
Imagine how big he was.
Farmz, who was told of his early death by the smaller self sorceresses.
Oh.
Farmz, who then turned his forehead to the stone and sacrificed 300 smaller selves to Baal of the earth and was granted 100 more years of life.
Wow.
Farmz, who said to the Nephilim, "Why are you circumcised, giants, fearful, O you of little faith in Baal of the earth?" Farmz, who then arose and rebuked the circumcised Nephilim, and the ground opened and swallowed many, and he kept his calm. Farmz, who had the eyes of certain death. Farmz's army was 500 giants.
So here you see we got one of these Rephaim, these giants, children of the fallen angels, looking over there at the ball, or I mean at Babylon, and saying that they're giants. Like, hey, why you giants got your fucking penises cut? What's up with that? Right? So it just tells you right there that he's a giant talking to other giants.
Enceladus, the wealthy, strong potion maker and servant of Baal.
Wizard.
Servant of Baal of the moon. An alchemist.
So he's actually a druid. That's a druid right there.
Enceladus, whose dark ones of rage overtook him when he was drunk.
Yeah.
Enceladus, whose potions could chain a dark one in servitude to a Rephaim.
Oh.
Enceladus, whose potions cause the drinker to see the future of tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's when someone witchcrafts you and possesses you.
Enceladus, whose potions save the Rephaim that ate the sour meat of the circumcised Nephilim as cooked by Stolas.
That's freaking Merlin.
Enceladus, who when not drinking wine, ate sacrificial meat and hated his wise and understanding heart bitterly for no reason at all. Enceladus was the heaviest Rephaim on the field of battle, even heavier than the other Mr. the Heavy.
The fat man. Fat Joe.
Enceladus, who drank a potion and prophesied the great waters. Enceladus, who was a drunkard and a glutton and came to riches, and his drowsiness clothed him with gold. Enceladus's army was 2,000 giants.
Wow, so he was clothed in gold, like real fucking gold metal. And he actually, what was it, the spiritual part he had? The last piece.
He
What?
prophesied
Oh, yeah. He also prophesied
the great waters.
about the waters coming, the flood, right? Interesting.
Typhoeus, boiler of meats and breads. Typhoeus, who with Stolas fed the armies of King Og. Typhoeus, who shaved his head after breaking a vow to Baal of the moon. Typhoeus, of which none in all of King Og's kingdom practiced wickedness like him. He was the most wicked.
The most wicked.
Typhoeus, who never abstained from meat offered to Baal of the earth, moon, or sun. So he always ate that meat, even though he wasn't supposed to.
Yep, and you hear him say they're offering meats and breads. That means meats is any kind of meat they fucking found.
Typhoeus, who drank the blood and essence of things strangled and from things of spiritual connection from which you keep with yourselves.
Wow. So he loved to torture you and then drink your blood.
Typhoeus, who ate the sacrificial bread, and he ate the dainty sacrificial meats served to him with the evil eye.
Wow.
Typhoeus, who said, meats for the belly and the belly for meats, but I shall destroy both it and them. Typhoeus, whose wickedness caused the dark ones to attach to him, so that he always smoldered as the embers of fire.
Holy shit.
Typhoeus, who had the eyes of certain death. Typhoeus's army was 500 giants. This guy's scary.
That is. He looks like he's just straight eating meat. He's a carnivore.
See it, Anna. Stolas, the stew maker, who spoke with the bright ones. Stolas, whose eyes were blackened by all that was vulgar in the world. Stolas, who had the Typhoeus, who with Typhoeus fed the armies of King Og. Stolas, who when on the field of battle gave himself over to the dark ones. Stolas, who fed upon the dead Nephilim and cooked their sour bodies for Og's armies. Stolas, who would only sacrifice an uncircumcised male, smaller self, without blemish, to Baal of the earth. Stolas, who could call large fecal worms up from the ground to wrap, enter, and consume his enemies from Baal of the earth.
Wow, shit worms.
Stolas, who had eaten the food served by the bright ones, having eaten their strange meat as a guest till his hand pushed the plate away. Stolas's army was 2,000 giants.
Yeah, so this dude, remember, so he was out there, he was the cook, main cook. He was out there cooking up these sour dead people. They were rotting dead people. And then the other dude, the big fat man, he was the one that made the potions. So when the people got sick, he could cure them from that dead, rotten meat.
Madoc of the Shadows. Madoc, who stayed away from his fellow Rephaim and lived in caves.
Oh.
Madoc, who heard the distant cursed voices and obeyed their commands. Madoc, who was surrounded in a cloud of dark ones that covered him in the haze of Ball of the Earth, which filled his cave.
Wow.
Madoc, whose prophecies were shunned because they were never of good, but always of darkness. Madoc, who covered himself in mud, and his hair was heavy with soil. Madoc, whose dark ones put a filth upon all they touched, and made them vile, and set them as a gazing stock. Madoc, who had the eyes of certain death. Madoc's army was 500 giants.
She was like Pigpen.
Ipos, tormented, inheritor of Baal's kingdom. Ipos, whose golden flesh was pronounced with great musculature. Ipos, whose beauty could summon the loins of giants who weren't homosexual.
Ooh.
Ipos, whose dark ones would lift him and place him where he requested. Ipos, whose flesh had touched any and all unclean things to inherit the kingdom of Baal. Ipos, who conjured a lying dark one to confuse the ranks of the Rephaim. Ipos, who did indeed fornicate and was a lover of males. Ipos, who surrounded himself with male giants who loved him. Ipos, whose behavior reminded the Rephaim of the unspoken mistake so that he was disliked for it. Ipos, who was a fornicator, a mot idolater, effeminate, a thief, covetous, a drunkard, a reviler, a swindler, and was prophesied to inherit the kingdom of Baal.
Wow. Wow.
Ipos,
wow.
yeah. Ipos, who alone had the respect of King Og. Ipos, who had the eyes of certain death, and his army was 500 giants.
So if the first dude was beautiful and maybe was probably gay, this dude's like the fairy, the like super homosexual. He was gold. His skin was gold, people.
Golden flesh.
Yep, golden flesh. And he was homosexual and supposedly was prophesized to inherit
the kingdom of Baal.
The kingdom of earth. The kingdom of fucking earth. When you hear ball of the earth, that's kingdom of earth. That's the king of earth.
It's not even ball of the earth, though. Like, we are seeing ball of the earth, ball of the sun, ball of the celestial bodies and stars, ball of the moon. This is stating just ball, period. Yeah. Ball.
He's going to be God, dude.
All of it.
He's going to be God.
Encompassed.
He's going to be God.
Balor or Balor, with black hair and one good eye. Balor, whose single eye perceived the weaknesses of his enemies. In battle, Balor was unstoppable. Balor, whose good eye was a blessing of Baal of the moon. Balor, who only spoke in dark sayings. Balor, whose incantation to Baal of the earth would move a mountain to the sea. Balor, who also said, "If I am indeed a servant of Baal of the sun, then let fire come down from on high and consume the Nephilim." And fire did come down and did consume 50 Nephilim. Balor, who's prophesied of the coming waters. Balor, who prophesied of the coming great waters. Balor, whose single eye had no pity upon the Nephilim. For Nimrod's kingdom was Og's. Balor's army was 2,000 giants.
Yeah. So there's fucking Odin.
Hanres, the hairy priest of Mot.
Ooh.
Hanres, who did not worship Mot in secret. Hanres, who walked with Mot as a companion and visited his kingdom.
Is that Esau? Could that be Esau right here?
Hanres, whose dark ones were such that he was as a whirlwind, looks as a whirlwind turns.
Oh my God, is that the Tasmanian devil?
Might be.
Holy shit, that's where he came from, people.
Hanres, who swore thoughtlessly with his lips to only do evil.
That's me.
Hanres, who Mot told of the great waters. Hanres, whose method of destruction on the field of battle brought a fear to the uncircumcised. Hanres, who had the eyes of certain death. Hanres, whose comprehension of the dark ones was complete. Hanres' army was 2,000 giants.
So that dude worshiped the devil. That's Mot. That's when they say the devil. That's Mot. Mot is devil at that time. It's fucking wild.
Botus, father of Balor. Botus, whose wisdom was afforded by Baal of the moon. Botus, who spoke of the nature of things and saw all unseen truth. Botus, whose heavy beard rested over his shoulders. Botus, who created a strange fire that lifted up towards Baal of the sun regularly. Botus, who pronounced a curse upon the circumcised Nephilim in the name of Baal of the earth, and 42 untamable female bears entered the field of battle and mauled the Nephilim till they died.
Jesus. And imagine, these are giants, people. Imagine what size these fucking bears were. We ain't talking no after flood bear.
Botus, who was beheaded and cannibalized on the field of battle. Botus's army was 5,000 giants.
So Botus is the Rephaim. They're the cannibals, right? Why did he get cannibalized? The other fucking army ate him. Babylon ate him. The people of the world ate his ass.
Yathat.
I wonder how many dicks were on the Barbies that day.
Too many.
Got some dicks on the Barbie.
Yathat, keeper of the smaller cells.
You think?
Yathat, whose charge it was to determine the smaller selves to be slaughtered by Onzal. Yathat of dark eyes and dark hair. Yathat, who lifted his eyes to heaven and saw the sun, moon, and the stars, and all the host of heaven, and he worshipped and served Baal in all of those things. Yathat, who was close to his brother Enoch. Yathat, who taught the Rephaim how to make war with the driver and chaser, and how to bend a bow of bronze. Yathat, who had the eyes of certain death. Yathat, who growled as he killed. Yathat's army has 2,000 giants. Yeah. So his brother Enoch, whom I believe is the keeper, that was the first one we read about, was the creator. No, I'm sorry, he's the priest. No, Enoch is the keeper. Sorry.
Yeah.
But the creator was Azoth. I was thinking he was the creator of the driver and chaser, but he's not. He's just the keeper.
Yeah, keeper of the word.
But Yathat was the one who showed them how to use it in war.
And what? Who killed him? It's right.
It doesn't say who killed
right
him.
at the very beginning. It says he was beheaded or slaughtered by who?
No, that was the last one.
No, baby. You just were reading it. It says Onzal.
Okay, now he was not killed. Yathat, whose charge it was to determine the smaller selves to be slaughtered by Onzal. He was the one that chose the smaller selves to be slaughtered.
Onzal is the cook.
Yes. So he was the one that was like, all right, we're going to eat that one and that one and that one and that one tonight.
Yeah.
The rest of y'all go back to wherever you're doing.
Yeah. They were like, oh, okay, cool. Like they knew they were going to get eaten.
Cheers, Felicia.
Felicia, what up? What up?
Movek, who hated his fellow giants like a sickness. Movek, who prophesied of the unspoken mistake.
Oh.
Movek, who hated the giants because they should have confirmed the prophecy that would end their species.
Yeah. The unspoken mistake is the death of the moon child, which means they can no longer have any more giants because there's no more females left.
Movek, who knew the giants' time was short. Movek, who prophesied the coming of the great waters. Movek, who was consumed by jealous dark ones that caused him to scar himself continually. Movek, who worshipped Mot openly and was as a brother to Botus.
So he was a cutter. He cut his arms.
Movek, who summoned unspeakable beasts of Mot upon the field of battle that killed many circumcised and uncircumcised alike. Movek, who attacked the Nephilim mightily until his hand was weary and would not loosen the sword. He literally cramped the sword. Movek, who died as a hero of old on the field of battle. Movek's army was 500 giants. Jotun, from the cold lands of elsewhere. Jotun, whose flowing yellow hair and piercing eyes brought fear to all who looked upon him. Jotun, who wore the pelts of unknown beasts. Jotun, who sacrificed daily to Baal of the sun. Jotun, who was able to arouse the anger of the Baal of the sun and call down large stones of fire against his enemies.
More meteorites.
Jotun, who drank a potion of Enceladus and lost himself to the Dark Ones for 8 seasons. Jotun, who helped to tear down Nimrod's high places of Baal worship. Jotun, who killed Nimrod's sons, whose names will not be mentioned, to blot them from the earth. Jotun's army was 500 giants. So he was our first Viking that came into the play here.
Big long phone here. So hopefully Nimrod isn't Noah and they didn't kill, Noah's sons.
Gantwa, from the cold lands of elsewhere.
Yep, there's another one.
Gantwa, who wrestled mightily with the great beasts in the blood pits of Baal of the earth. Gantwa, who called down fire from Baal of the sun and did not receive it. Gantwa, who worshipped Baal in a wrong fashion and was promised every abomination before death.
Oh, shit.
Gantwa, while strong in flesh, was weak of spirit and mind. Gantwa, of whom the dark ones avoided. Gantwa, who was caught, his eyes gouged, chained to a stone, and lashed and abused by the Nephilim until he was dead. Gantwa's army was 500 giants.
Insane.
Nibos, the black giant from the hot lands of elsewhere.
5th one.
Nibos, who escaped capture from Nimrod's army. Nibos, who preferred a sword to an axe. Nibos, who collected 3,000 removed Nephilim heads from the field and burned them in the high places to gods we did not know, according to the rituals of the nation from which he'd come.
Wow. From Africa.
Nibos, whose dark ones stood beside him as trees walking. Nibos, who shaped the shores of the great land with stones and sand. Nibos, whose foreign gods told of the great waters to come. Nibos's army was 1,000 giants.
That's wild. So there's another black African guy coming. Lord Anki. Now they all worship Lord Anki over there. That's the snake worship. So he must have went around and told everybody, hey man, there's water. There's a flood. There's a flood coming, guys. You'll be okay. You guys are giants.
Sao the Black.
Ooh.
Long-haired giant from the hot lands of elsewhere. There's your 6th one, I think.
Yeah.
Sao, brother of Nibos.
Yep, black guy.
Sao, possessed by a powerful dark one who would change his form into an abomination for days upon end.
Oh.
Sao, whose madness was corrupted on the field of battle.
Wow.
Sao, whose warfare made no discernible sense. Sao, whose heavy dark hair was magnificent to all who saw it. Sau, who held fast to gods we did not know and would not depart from them. Sau, who dragged the dead bodies of Sau, who dragged the dead bodies to Stolas for food. Sau, who had the eyes of certain death. Sau, who died at the hands and weapons of the circumcised. His army was 1,000 giants. Izdubar, of golden skin and black eyes. Izdubar, who sacrificed all of his offspring to Baal of the sun before the unspoken mistake. Izdubar, who practiced all of the soothsaying, witchcraft, and openness to dark ones that he could muster.
So he sacrificed all his kids.
Izdubar, who created potions with Enceladus that caused the giants to see the future and tomorrow. Izdubar, of whom there had been no giant like him before, and who worshipped Baal of the sun with all of his soul and with all of his might, according to the laws of the kingdom. Izdubar, who foretold the great waters to come. Izdubar, who had the eyes of certain death, and his army was 500 giants. Danava, of golden skin and black eyes. Danava, whose dark ones protected him from arrows and spears. Danava, whose madness caused him to run headlong into battle. Danava, who attacked the circumcised Nephilim with fingers and teeth. Danava, who consulted a medium of Mot for guidance. Danava, whose staff was infused by the power of Baal of the sun, so that all who touched it were healed from various wounds. Danava, who walked with Baal of the sun, has no other giant before or after. Danava's army was 500 giants.
That's fucking insane.
Kresil, of the warmer lands of elsewhere. Interesting. Not hot lands, warmer. They're just warmer.
Warmer.
They're not quite hot yet.
Like America.
Kresil, of golden skin and hair. So
Gold.
he had golden hair too. Kresil, whose army the dark ones made invisible.
Ooh.
Kresil, servant of Baal of the moon. Kresil, whose dark ones confused the circumcised Nephilim, so that they said, I hear them, but I see no one.
Yeah.
Kresil, whose army relentlessly killed and tormented the most Nephilim in the 100,000 giant war.
Damn.
His was the most because his army was invisible. They couldn't see him. Kresil, who practiced the darkest sorcery of Baal of the moon within the great land. Kresil, who had prophesied the great waters. Kresil's army was 2,000 giants. So 2,000 invisible giants just wreaking havoc. That's pretty cool.
Dude, trying to cut your penis off the whole time. Don't forget that.
Tiamat.
Oh, Tiamat.
Of the lands along the waters. This is a new one. Tiamat, whose body was covered with scars from struggles with water creatures. Tiamat, whose presence brought fear into the hearts of the giants who had seen him in battle before. Tiamat, who screamed at his army that Baal of the moon was great and greatly to be feared above all other gods.
Oh, there's a one God thing.
Tiamat, whose army argued about the stature of Baal of the moon. He called down ice from the sky upon 100 of his own giants.
Oh, shit.
Because they questioned that. What?
How strong was Baal of the moon? So they brought down ice.
Tiamat's army was 500 giants.
Until he killed them with
Until
ice.
he killed 100 of them.
And
Then it was 400.
Smited him. He smited him with Baal. His god is the moon. He don't give a fuck about none of his other gods. See what I'm saying?
Zokul, the prophet of Mot.
Ooh.
Zokul, who never left Mot's temple until the time of the 100,000 giant war. Zokul, of whom Mot spoke wisdom through. Zokul, who prophesied the victory of the 100,000 giant war and the coming great waters. Zokul possessed by dark ones that stood on his shoulders. Zokul, who was aroused on the field of battle, he so hated the Nephilim and lusted for their death. Zokul, who drank the blood of the Nephilim he killed. Upon the field of battle, Zokul was possessed by a demon that none had encountered before.
Ooh.
Zokul, who had the eyes of certain death, in a possessed state, attacked his own army, and he was murdered by them.
Wow.
Zokul's army was 2,000 giants.
So now, real quick, we go back to the Anunnaki or the book of Enoch, where Enoch says that the giants, when they die, they won't go to heaven or hell. Their souls are being trapped here on earth, and we will know them as demonic spirits, right? So what if at this time the Anunnaki and the Nephilim there were able to learn how to make them demonic spirits? Because it wasn't until after this that they cursed them to be demonic spirits, right? So what if that's where they learned it, and then they, like, just like she read, they could control them and say, hey, go over there and fuck that army up real quick. So what if they're like, hey, go and possess that dude, and it's a foreign dark one? You didn't want the foreign dark one up in you.
No.
You wanted a dark one you chose.
None had encountered it before.
None had encountered it. And they said,
and he turned against his fucking people.
And, hold on. They're all called dark ones, and that one's called what?
A demon.
A demon. Never, ever, ever.
Yeah, they're all dark ones and a demon.
Never have you ever heard the word demon in any Sumerian tablet shit, any of that shit ever. And then this is the first time, like, you got to record the times in history, right? Right before the flood, the water's about to start happening. You notice the water hasn't happened yet or nothing, but the demon, it's always dark one before. Those are earth spirits, a demon. And Enoch said that God, Enlil, was going to curse these giants to be demons to us. Interesting as fuck. I think they literally got one of those giants and demonized them real fast.
Atlan, one of the 2 tallest giants from the furthest edge of the land. Atlan, who hounded his circumcised enemies day and night with fury. Atlan, who never feared and put his trust in Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Atlan, who saw the Nephilim turn back in fear of his approach. Atlan, who swung his driver and chaser, exposing the yellowing entrails, blood, and bone of the circumcised Nephilim.
Hold on, can you read that one? I want you to know something right now, okay? There's videos out of a basketball player that got his nose bloodied and broken. He literally is bleeding yellow fucking blood. Can you read that one more time, please?
Atlan, who saw the Nephilim turn back in fear of his approach. Atlan, who swung his driver and chaser, exposing the yellowing entrails, blood and bone of the circumcised Nephilim.
The yelling, so they're saying that, you know, some of those basketball players are literally Nephilim, dude. Angels, giant fallen angels and shit. Hey.
Atlan, who twisted the circumcised Nephilim's spells and curses against them with great cunning.
Wow.
Atlan, whose army marked the footsteps and lay in wait for the circumcised Nephilim, who would collect the foreskins of the dead Rephaim on the fields of battle. Atlan's army was 3,000 giants.
So as they were killing these Rephaims, they were going around and circumcising them. Told you, cutting their
and they were fucking hiding. So, you think you're going to cut it off, huh? Cut you down.
And they were eating them.
Phaeton.
One
of the 2 tallest giants from the furthest edge of the land. The other one of the 2. So Phaeton,
sorry, I missed that.
Phaeton and Atlan were the 2 tallest giants.
The 2 tallest, okay.
Phaeton, one of the 2 tallest, the other, from the furthest edge of the land. Phaeton, whose red hair hung about his head as a testimony of his strength.
Red-haired giants. So they were probably most likely from Russia, the furthest edge of the land, right? The black dudes were coming from Africa. That's the furthest edge of the land there. The furthest of the north were these tall, super gold hair giants, right? The furthest we know, if we go into Russia, we start finding red hair giants in Russia. That's my take on it.
Phaeton, who hated the circumcised Nephilim with an unnatural burning hatred. Phaeton, whose army tore through the Nephilim as lions tear through the sick.
Oh.
Phaeton, whose giants set fires with oil on the fields of battle and attacked outside it. Phaeton, whose worshipped Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Phaeton, who broke the circumcised Nephilim teeth in their mouths with rocks and other objects.
Oh, God, that would hurt.
Phaeton, whose dark ones drove him to pursue the Nephilim for days without rest.
Wow.
Phaeton's army was 3,000 giants.
Wow. So they fought for days and days with no rest. Just killing motherfuckers. Remember, the whole world, 100,000 giants had to fight the whole world. The entire world is Tower of Babel, people.
Zakab, a hurler of stones and spears. It was said that Zakab could throw rocks and spears, and his mighty arms that were as large as felled tree stumps never tired.
Wow.
Zakab, who lived near the trees where the Rephaim tie their dead. Zakab, who had a dark one so powerful that he could not be bound with chains, but that they broke as a thread of tow when it touches the fire. They broke like that. Zakab, who sacrificed to Baal of the moon at dusk every evening. Zakab's hate for the circumcised Nephilim was the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Zakab, who had the eyes of certain death. Zakab led an army of 1,000 giants who hurled stones and spears in battle.
Wow.
Baalis, the finisher, who slew all of the dying and wounded. He was the
cleanup guy.
Who slew all of the dying and wounded Nephilim on the field of battle.
Yep, he was the cleanup guy.
Baalis, who stacked the bodies of the dead Nephilim in large burning monuments.
Hell yeah.
To Baal of the earth. Baalis, who it was said the dark ones favored. Baalis, the soothsayer, who secretly worshipped Mot. Baalis, who would force wounded Nephilim faces to swim together before they broke like pottery in his grasp. Baalis, who lowered himself to the ground and attacked the circumcised as a beast of the fields would. Baalis, the finisher's army, who was 2,000 giants, who slew the wounded Nephilim on the field of battle.
That's insane.
Skiron, who had lost his arm in battle alongside Gurion. Skiron, servant of Baal of the moon. Skiron, who connected to a floating beast into battle, a second person connecting to floating beasts.
Yeah.
Skiron, who, when connected, looked like an elephant and grew his arm back.
See, so he transformed into an elephant. The first dude was a lion. This dude's an elephant. The other dude, he had Baal the Earth's magic, witch magic, and could turn into any animal he wanted to, even a fucking eagle and insects. Crawl up your penis as a what's that thing? Catfish.
Skiron, who harvested and drank the blood of the Nephilim in clay pots with Qurans. Skiron, who demanded that those follow him shave their heads in ritualistic patterns as those from the hotlands of elsewhere do.
Wow.
Skiron, who trained the great beast to stand upon the circumcised and hold them still until his army cut their throats and stomped their skulls. Before the water came, the field of battle was soaked with blood, and it was Skiron and his giants doing. Skiron's army was 500 giants. Gug, the ugliest giant to walk before Baal of the earth. Gug, whose ugliness could stun a bull elephant, beast of the field. Gug, who while in a trance spoke the words of Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Gug, who prophesied the great waters to come. Gug, who with his horrible visage led the first of the Rephaim to battle. Gug, who wrung Nephilim necks with hands that were dangerous weapons. Gug, whose terrible physical twisting was never undone. When Baal of the earth looked upon Gug, he looked with respect. Gug, who had the eyes of certain death. His army was 500 giants.
How much money you get? Why don't we just stop there?
Okay.
Are you super tired?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell. Why don't you stop?
Okay.
We're only supposed to do 5 pages.
I thought you wanted to do all of this.
Well, no, I thought we were supposed to just do 5 pages.
Okay. Well, we can do the rest.
Yeah, you're super tired. Slow down.
Okay. So Gug, ending on Gug the Ugly.
Yes, Gug the Ugly.
So we have a couple more pages left of the.
They're front to back, so it's really like 6 pages left
of the leaders and who they are. I'm wearing out, guys. I'm sorry, but I need to wait till next week.
She's the reader, though. She likes it.
I do. You can read if you want.
I can't see.
Well, you can't see to read.
Put my glasses on.
Let's
see. Where are you at?
I'm right here.
Ugg.
This one.
Hastor, Ugg's battle strategist, right? Hastor, who rode a large beast of old to the field of battle. Hastor, whose heavy black hair was a crown to him. So he wore that shit up like a fucking, what's that shit? Like a turban. Hastor, who was a priest of Baal of the moon. Hastor, who was honorable and whose counsel was like deep waters. Okay, so his counsel was like deep waters. Hastor, who forced his sandaled foot onto the necks of many of the felled circumcised. Hastor's army was successful because the circumcised Nephilim nation is a nation without counsel, and there is no understanding among them. Hastor, who, that's fucking awesome. The Nephilim, I really think they're talking about the Nephilim being us. You know what I'm saying? Because Nephilim is a nation without counsel, and there is no understanding among them. So it's like Tower of Babel, and they spread the fucking language. Mm-hmm. They were giants, though. They were giants to us. So these were bigger than them, though. These things were bigger than them. It's just amazing. So Hastor, who had prophesied the loss of the unspoken mistakes, that's the loss of the Moonchild, and the great waters, so that's the flood. Hastor's army was 500 giants. All right, let's do the dragon siblings. And then we should stop it, though. We didn't want to do it too long. We're supposed to do an hour. Remember? An hour. I think that's an hour and a half total. What does that do? The dragon siblings that rode dinosaurs, right? From China, right? The dragon siblings with what color hair? What color hair does they have over there in Game of Thrones? The dragon riders?
Blonde.
White hair, right? The dragon siblings with white hair and blue eyes, right? So these
sounds like they're Targaryens to me.
Yep, these were giants that answered the call. These are leaders of the army. Now behind them is a whole bunch of other motherfucking dragon riders with motherfucking blonde hair and blue eyes. People, these are Targaryens right here. The dragon siblings with white hair and blue eyes entered the 100,000 giant war from the east, right? So if they were in the Middle East and these motherfuckers came from the east, because y'all know where Babylon is, right? The dragon siblings who worship gods we didn't know, the dragon siblings who were protected by the bright ones, who we all know are Anunnaki, those are the light ones and shit like that, the shining ones, right, in the Irish tales. The dragon siblings who's joining army, added 20,000 Rephaim to the battle. 20,000 blonde-haired, blue-eyed, dinosaur-riding giants come into battle, dude, from China. From China, everybody.
Now that's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. The kingdom of Og hired the dragon siblings, hired them as mercenaries with the gold strip from Baal, the Earth's temple, right? A curse forever is upon all of us for our purchase, right? They stole all the gold from the god, Baal.
And gave it to the dragon riders.
Yeah, so they stole all the fucking gold from an Anunnaki storehouse that was supposed to go to Nibiru and gave it to the dragon siblings to come and help them in this war. Their tales and exploits against the circumcised, are they not recorded in the wars of giants in the mountains? This is what we gotta find. The wars of giants in the mountains. We got to find that. Or is that literally talking about us today? We got to find that. So we'll stop there. We're at the 63. Tarhunt the Hungry, who ate many sour deadlings.
Sour deadlings.
Rotten people. God. Rotten corpses.
You know, evidently the rotting corpses, there was a handful of these giants that, you know, they ate the dead hang from the trees. They did it. They did it.
Yep.
They evidently liked it.
So there's tons of white motherfuckers in there. There's a whole bunch of black motherfuckers in there. There's actual lepers, which are albinos in there. When they talk about they had sores, that's why they call lepers. Their skin was as white as snow. You go out in that sun in Iraq, fried, baby, and you're gonna have sores.
Are probably blisters,
and which keep festering.
Which, if you don't know how to treat, will fester.
Think about all the flies.
Yeah.
Think about all the flies that are out there.
Oh yeah.
They're eating the fuck out of those fucking wounds, and that's what exactly. But they all came to war. Where were they? Diseased and sick.
Leprous and
diseased.
It was either 2,000 or 5,000 leprous.
Can you imagine just all the pus?
That was a stinky army.
Flying off those people, and it's all right
That's
there.
That's a nasty ass army right there.
The battlefield, they're piling these people up and burning them, right? You got to imagine there's 9 billion people on this planet, right? This battle is prophesized to happen in our times right now. The Euphrates River is literally emptying, so these dudes can cross that motherfucker again. That's what that's what that battle was right here, right now, before the flood. Before the flood, Jesus was prophesied to come back right before this battle and just take everyone away real quick, and then the rest of those motherfuckers got to fight these assholes. Giants will come out of earth. Right? All the shit, right? These are the times that they're talking about is right now. So imagine the craziness. Imagine fighting these assholes. Oh my God. It would be crazy. Oh, that's what I thought, but
it would be very crazy.
Yeah. I'm hungry. I want to get some food.
I'm getting hungry. I'm ready to veg out, guys. So Thank you so much for joining us on our part 1 of the 100,000 Giant War.
Yeah.
We're digging into who fought the war on King Og's side, and we're going to continue that next week. Yes, we are.
Don't get your penis circumcised yet.
So, yeah.
Think about it first. They're going to cut it off in the feel the battle.
Yeah, that's just crazy. We haven't even come to the war yet. Like, that's just crazy.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh.
It was 9 billion people on this planet, right? There's more supposed to be prophesied. So imagine 100,000 giants coming out of that ground, and everybody in the whole world has to fight against these damn things. Insane. That's what I was going to say. Like, the whole world fought against 100,000 total giants. They didn't have a whole army behind them. There was 100,000 total of these damn things against the entire world's population. Crazy.
Very.
All right, everybody. Peace out. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
and,
everybody.
Join us next time.
See you later.
Later.